All right, we are here in London, England, just days away from Michael Bisping versus Anderson Silva.
How are you, sir?
And look who I've run into, my old friend Michael Bisping. Wow.
How about that? It's like
unbelievable.
Fate has brought us together at this moment.
It's a beautiful
thing. It's incredible. And the cameras just happened to be here.
Unbelievable.
This wasn't accidentally on purpose at all.
No, not at all.
Wow, it's incredible.
The
sun is shining. I have my gloves on. I have my coat. Likewise. Should we go for a stroll?
Yes. The last time we did a little extended thing together, we were on my home turf.
Correct.
Montreal.
Right. Yes.
Prior to a big win. Perhaps this is good luck for you. Now, of course, we're in your home turf.
I owe that win to you.
Finally. On the
recognition, finally. And hopefully when I beat Anderson Silva, once again, it will be down to you, my friend.
So I have a nice little surprise for you over here. Check this out. So as you know, I'm a big deal in England.
Of course.
And I've set us up with this.
You carry a lot of weight.
Yes. This, what do you call this? Not a cab here, right?
It's a cab.
Okay, it's a cab. Sorry, I thought you had some other jargon.
A London black cab. Well, it's supposed to be black.
And look at that.
Look at that. Isn't that something?
Your mug. Did you ever think in a million years, as a youngster?
No. Seriously, to see that, it is incredible.
It is.
I never thought I would ever have my face on the side of taxis driving around. And no, it still blows my mind to this day. You know, all joking aside, it's incredible. It just shows what hard work, determination, and a good work ethic. It shows where it can take you. So, yeah.
And on top of everything, next to that man,
of course, next to that man. You know what though, and I'll take this opportunity to point this out.
Please.
The guy that's ranked higher should be in the red corner, so it should be Bisping versus Silva. And according to UFC rankings, I'm ranked higher, but you know, whatever.
So you're a little offended by this?
I'm not a little offended, but it just...
Annoyed?
You know, no, not annoyed. It's just an interesting thing to point out.
It is a good observation. All right, well, we're going to go for a little stroll in the cab, see some sights, some sounds. You're going to play host for me for a little bit. We'll talk a little bit.
I'll show you around,
Here we go. Future champions first.
Oh.
How about that? How about that? You fought in London, you fought in England before. Have you ever been on cabs or anything like that?
Do you know what? Actually, I have. To tell the truth, when the UFC office first opened, they obviously had a big push in the UK, so a lot of cabs actually had my ugly face on them.
Oh wow.
Around London, yeah. So I mean, that blew my mind then, and it still blows my mind now. Yeah, that was back here in 2006, so it's nice to grace the side of a taxi once again.
Let's be honest here for a second. We're filming this on a Wednesday afternoon, just a few days before the fight. And as you know, because you are a media member, there's a lot of big news going on in the world of mixed martial arts. Rafael dos Anjos, Nate Diaz, Conor McGregor, all that stuff. And I know you're focusing on cutting weight and fighting, but does a part of you feel a little bit like you're being overshadowed here? Biggest fight, huge deal, sold out. Do you feel like you're not getting the love?
No, not in the slightest.
Okay.
You know, it's a huge fight. There's a lot of buzz around England for this fight. Of course, Conor was supposed to fight Rafael dos Anjos next week. That was a huge fight. It was potentially 2 belts for Conor McGregor on the line. A history-making fight, potentially. And certainly a fight that was interesting for a lot of reasons. You know, people were interested to see if Conor was finally going to get beat, or could he pull off the impossible. So, you know, and Conor is a superstar.
Right.
You know, and it's big news. It's big news. So yeah, I'm not offended. I'm not overshadowed. I will drag the attention back to this fight, believe you me. Myself versus Anderson Silva is a big fight, and people will be tuning in.
The fascinating thing about this fight is that originally it was supposed to be Gegard Mousasi. Essentially, the card sold out without really any fight. I mean, they knew you were going to be on it, and Mousasi, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
And it sold out in minutes.
You know, I mean, I don't know what to say to that. I mean, I'm so honoured, I really am, by the support that I've had of the British public. If it wasn't for the British public, I wouldn't have had the career that I've had. I'm undefeated in the UK. You know, every time I fought here, ticket sales have been amazing, and the crowd, the reception I get, the love that they give me is incredible. And you know, I never take that for granted. I never do. And the place sold out in 25 minutes. You know, with me and Gegard on the card, that was it. Scotland sold out remarkably fast, and in the past it's always sold out as well. So everybody that bought a ticket, everybody that's going to tune in, everybody that wishes me well, my friends, my family, my teammates, everybody, thank you from the bottom of my heart.
So that was all well and good. It was a done deal, and then Christmas Eve, they call you up and throw the Anderson curveball your way. Do you remember that? How did it all go down? Who calls you up? How does it go down? And what's your reaction?
I think it was Christmas Eve or the day before Christmas Eve.
Okay.
And Dana White called. Of course, you always answer straight away when it's Dana. Always something interesting to say. And the conversation actually went, he said, "Bad news, bro." I'm like, oh, okay. This should be interesting. And he said, "Your fight in London is off." And I'm like, oh, that is bad news. You know, I'm thinking, crap. Okay, go on. And he said, "But don't worry, I've got good news." I go, oh, okay. He said, "Your fight in London is back on." I'm like, right, okay.
Okay.
Now I'm confused.
Yes.
He said, "So, how about you versus Anderson Silva?" So, okay, great, yeah, absolutely. I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, you know, we want to do something big for Fight Pass, and we're thinking you versus Anderson Silva." Of course, right then and there, I didn't hesitate, didn't think about it. I said, "Yeah, of course, let's do it. You know, I've wanted to fight this guy for a long time." The only thing I said was, "Dana, when I win this fight, I've won 4 out of my last 5, and I feel I deserve a title shot." And he said, "Whoa, you know, I can't say that." I said, "I'm not asking you to commit to that right now. I'm just letting you know where my head's at, what my train of thought is, and what I feel I deserve when I beat him."
And you feel like that's still the case?
Of course it's still the case. You know, I've been around the UFC for a long time, you know, and of course I know I've lost fights. I know more than anybody that, you know, I've had my ups and my downs. You know, I'm well aware of that. But I've been around for a while. I'm on a winning streak. Hopefully I beat Anderson, who's a legendary fighter. The only person to beat him in the UFC is Chris Weidman. I've won 4 out of my last 5. I've been a #1 contender on 3 occasions. That means I've put several win streaks together over the years to lose at critical times. Of course, to opponents, you know, that were, you know, not competing on a level playing field, without getting into all that.
Sure.
I'm sick of talking about that. Yeah, of course, I definitely deserve it.
So when we spoke in Montreal in April, prior to the CB Dalloway fight, you were coming off the Rockhold loss.
Yes.
And we were kind of talking about this sort of being the crossroads. Do you think you'll ever get the title shot? Will you go down as the greatest fighter in UFC history to never fight for the belt? And now here you are less than a year later, fighting arguably the greatest of all time and on the verge of that. It's amazing how much has changed in less than a year. And for you, it feels like, okay, this is the unofficial title shot. This is the fight you've been striving for, right? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, it's kind of bittersweet in a way, because of course he was the long-time champion, and I always wanted to fight Anderson. I always felt that I matched up well with him. You know, of course, talk is cheap, but I did, honestly, in my heart of hearts, felt that I could beat him. I looked at people that he fought and the way that they fought him, and they were scared. The fight was already a done deal. The fight was a formality. You know, they were beaten mentally before the fight even started. Of course, he's not the champion now, but it's still, for me, outside of a title fight, this is the biggest fight that I could possibly have. I mean, Gegard Mousasi is a fantastic opponent, a great guy, but nothing negative to say about Gegard Mousasi. But for me, that was just another opponent. Of course, I was excited to come to England, to fight at the O2 Arena, return home, of course. But opponent-wise, it was just another opponent. I didn't get excited about that. When it changed to Anderson Silva, that changed everything. This is a guy that I wanted to fight, a guy that I feel I can silence some of my critics if I beat him. I know I have my critics. I know what people say about me. I know what journalists say about me. I know what fans say about me. But if I can go out there and beat Anderson Silva, you know, it validates my career. It validates my hard work. Of course, it's a huge fight for the UK public. You know, not often we get fights of this caliber in the UK. So for all these many, many reasons, it's very exciting.
That puts a lot of pressure on your shoulders, though, to say that a fight, a singular fight, validates your career.
Well, it does. It does. I have to win this fight. I have to, for myself, because, again, as I said before, I know what people say about me, and what they say is that Michael Bisping's a good fighter, but he always loses the big fights. Okay, I don't want to go down in history as the guy that was decent, but always lost the big ones. And that's what they'll say, and they'll be right to say that if I lose to Anderson. So I have to win this for my legacy, for my reputation as a fighter. So there's a lot at stake in this. My personal pride, my personal self-belief, if you will. I know I can beat Anderson, but I've got to go out and do that. But for me, it's much more important. You know, there's more to it than just picking up the winner's check. There's more to it than, you know, being able to say that I won the fight. For me, it's about, you know, convincing everybody. And more to that, I've always been a great fighter.
More to that point, I remember when we spoke last year, you were kind of saying like you would be at peace, and correct me if I'm wrong, you know, you've had a good career, you'd be at peace if you never win the belt, but it feels like maybe something has changed now.
Yeah, I wouldn't be at peace if I never won the belt. I mean, to a certain degree, yes. To a certain degree, yes, because I got involved in this, you know, to support my family, and I've done that, and I've had a great career. I've had a better career than I ever thought possible. I didn't think, you know, that this career would take me to California, that I'd be living in a beautiful house, that I would be so happy. I'm a happy man, you know. I know I can walk around with like a bear with a sore head at times and be a grumpy son of a bitch. Certainly fight week when I'm not eating very much. But I'm a very, very happy man. I wake up every day with a smile on my face, and you know, sometimes I have to pinch myself. And this is all through fighting, and of course, my beautiful wife and my children. You know, but I'm a happy man, and it's fighting as well as my family that has made me so happy. So of course, I'm happy, and I'm content with what my fighting career has achieved for me. On a personal level, of course, I want that belt as well. I mean, I said it recently. Sat there at the desk, Daniel Cormier's got his belt, Dominic Cruz has got his belt, you know, and it's UFC Tonight is a very upbeat, jovial show. But don't think inside that doesn't hurt me a little bit. Does it hurt inside? You know, I want one of those belts. I feel I deserve one of those. I feel I'm good enough, you know. So, yes, of course, you put a brave face and you smile, but it stings. Of course it stings.
Does this fight feel a little more personal? Because I know you said you don't want to talk about the PD stuff, and I respect that because you've done your fair share of talking about it, but because of what's happened to him over the past year, and especially the way he has dealt with it, and sort of saying, oh, it was a mistake, and not really owning up to it, does it feel like you've been that guy on the crusade against the PD users? You and a few others have been very outspoken. Now that it's Anderson Silva with that asterisk on it, does it feel a little different than if it was like a couple of years ago?
I mean, let's just break that down. Anderson Silva tested positive for steroids, and he can deny it all he wants. He can shut the media up. He can say, I'm not talking about that, all he wants. But everybody knows he tested positive for 3 banned substances, one of them a performance-enhancing drug. Okay, and he can give it any fancy excuses he likes. He tested positive, that is in the record books, and he served a suspension. And this is Anderson Silva. This is the guy that was, you know, the perfect example of a martial artist. The guy that was going out there, bowing to his opponents, wowing audiences, inspiring fighters, inspiring me. Everybody looked up to Anderson. The things that he would do was amazing. It was jaw-dropping, and he did it time and time again. And, you know, he seemed like a traditional martial artist, a guy that works hard, that doesn't take shortcuts, and is capable of anything. That's inspirational. Then it comes out that the guy was cheating the whole time. The guy was a fraud. The guy was a coward. He was taking steroids. He was cheating the system, cheating the fans, and he's a fraud. And for me, that's very disappointing. Massively disappointing. Disappointing for everybody. And he can try and brush it under the carpet all he wants, but that ain't ever going to go away. And he takes offense at the fact that I dare to mention it. That I dare to mention that in your last fight you tested positive. That is extremely relevant, my friend. Don't think for 1 second I'm going to let you forget that. You should be ashamed of yourself. He should be ashamed of himself.
You know there are ways to cheat the system. Do you feel like he's still doing things like that?
I don't know. I don't concern myself. I've been very naive with my career. I had no idea that the problem was so rampant. I had no idea that, you know, that everybody was doing it. And it seems that really is the case. And people will always want to cheat. It's as simple as that. It's human nature. You know, people are always going to look to cheat the system, and there's more and more better scientific methods coming out all the time. I don't know, we'll see. I don't think he is now. He'd be a fool to. He would be a fool. But I've said this before, and I'll just say it for the record. I don't think for 1 second that Anderson Silva at 39 years old, when he had that fight, I believe, he's 40 now, whatever, 40 years old, I don't think that having the career that he's had, having the knockouts, being the longest reigning champion of all time, being the most successful UFC fighter that there ever has been, that somebody would come to him when he's 40 years old and offer him steroids for the first time after being the incredible Anderson Silva, and he would say, yeah, okay, I'll try it. No way. You would not risk your legacy, and you would say, I've been this successful without it, I don't need that. But that isn't what happened. He was definitely taking steroids in that fight. I find it very hard to believe that was the first time that he took it. And I think it's hard to argue with that logic.
Yeah, and also the first time in his career that he had been tested out of competition.
Absolutely.
Random
which is very
drug
relevant.
testing. Of course, yeah. Hugely relevant. How many times were you drug tested leading up to this fight?
Leading up to this fight, twice.
Twice. Do you feel like that's enough?
You know, it was, I don't know. I don't know, because I hear that there's things you can take that are in and out of your system pretty quick. I mean, it's a roll of the dice, though, you know. So I don't know how many times he tested Anderson. Jeff Nowitzki said you can go online and check. I've got better things to do with my time. I'm assuming they tested him, but I don't know. I would have liked to have seen him tested every week. I think everybody, if you're competing, you should be tested every week in camp, and you should be tested out of camp as well, because that's, you know, certainly where people are making gains.
So you had that little run-in with him at the open workout
a
couple of weeks ago. Do you feel like you got under his skin? Because it seemed like it started a little friendly, and then it kind of felt like he tried to hit you below the belt as well, talking about that this is your title fight, and do it in the jovial way.
Yeah, well, that's it. He was being very passive-aggressive.
That's the word.
Being very passive-aggressive, and of course I couldn't... Listen, here's the reality of that situation. Here's what happened.
Okay.
I was nowhere near where Anderson Silva was, and we all go there. There's a good turnout. There's a lot of media. There's a lot of fans come out to watch. They don't really want to. I mean, yes, of course, it's good. It's fun to watch some guys, some professional fighters hit pads, etc. But that's not really what they want to see. They don't want to see him hit pads and I hit pads. They want to see us interact. And I was nowhere near, but I said, come on, to my boxing coach, and let's go promote this fight. And I was annoyed because I didn't get to. It didn't escalate to where I wanted to.
Oh, you wanted it to go further?
No, of course I did. Of course. But the UFC brass were pulling me away. So I went over. Of course, I'm not just going to dive in and try and, you know, get face to face. You know, but I said, oh, here he is, Anderson Silva. How you doing? See you in London, my friend. Knowing that would be the start of an interaction. And then, it kind of went from there. And as I say, he was being passive aggressive, but he was doing it in a jovial way with a smile and a hug and a very sneaky look on his face. So of course I had to reciprocate that. I couldn't get in his face and start, being an idiot, being aggressive, So he said, I was champion for a long time, remember? I'm like, yeah, on steroids and things like that. And then the UFC people pulled me away. I was like, that's not what I wanted. That's not what you wanted.
Right.
I wanted to, hopefully he would, anyway, whatever. It never escalated.
Is this perhaps a sign of things to come later on in the week? You'll be facing off with him at the weigh-ins. Are you going to try to rile him up?
Well, his manager called my boxing coach immediately after that.
Okay.
And told me to take a step back.
Huh.
I said, tell Michael to lay off. Tell Michael to stop mentioning the steroids.
Huh.
No chance.
Interesting.
No chance. Yeah, exactly. Very interesting.
Why do you think they would say that? I mean, this is...
Well, and Anderson has been... listen, Anderson's under a lot of pressure. I'm under a lot of pressure. I'm under my own personal pressure. I get paid very well by the UFC. I'm generating a lot of money with this fight. So really, in some ways, you could argue there is no pressure for me, but there is. I'm putting myself under pressure. But he's under pressure because he's the great Anderson Silva. He's coming back. He's just tested positive for steroids. How better to eradicate that than to beat me and then get his title back, which is what he claims he's going to do. He's not going to do that. The division now is way better than what it was. He was beating a bunch of bums back in the day. He couldn't compete, I don't think, with the top 5 in the middleweight division right now. But he has to beat me, and he says that he's going to be the champion again. He's under a lot of pressure, and he wasn't going to turn up to the open workouts. I have that on good authority.
Really?
He wasn't going to turn up.
Why?
I don't know. I don't know why, and then... I don't know, he's spitting his dummy out, to use an English expression.
Because it's interesting you say that. I watched the first 2 episodes of Embedded. I don't know if you've been watching.
He wasn't on there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Is he not playing ball?
He's too cool for school. No, he's not playing ball. He's not playing ball at all. He doesn't want to do it, and that's great. I get it. I understand. Do what makes you happy, but he's under a lot of pressure.
All right. On that note, let's go outside.
Let's do it.
All right, here we are. Look at this ship over here, Michael.
This is the Cutty Sword.
Okay.
At one time in the world, this was the fastest boat in the world.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah.
Are you a big history buff?
Do you know what? Actually, I'm not a big history buff. I wouldn't say I'm a history buff, but I'm very interested in history.
Okay.
And all things old. I actually collect antiques, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, if you come to my house, it's full of antiques. That's my favourite pastime. Me and my wife, we like to go out antique shopping.
Really?
I know you wouldn't have thought that, would you?
Antiquing, yes. Do you have...
Antiquing is one of my favourite pastimes.
Is that true?
No, I swear to God.
Wow, I had no idea.
The Cutty Sword would deliver tea all over the world.
Really?
The fastest delivery of tea bags you've ever seen.
Do they... do they...
If you want tea, that will get it to you pretty quickly.
You're a big fan of tea. I saw recently you tweeted a picture you like to have tea before going to bed.
Well, that was a sleepy time.
That was a sleepy time.
That was a chamomile tea.
I think we're going to the right over here. There it is, the Cutty Sark. Do they still use these kind of ships around England, or is this?
Yeah, I'm not sure this is the most efficient way to travel these days.
That's right. That is right. When is the last time you've been in England? Was it?
Last time, December.
Oh, so not that long ago.
Yeah, I was here in December doing some corporate seminars for a friend of mine. Yeah, I come back sporadically, but quite frequently.
You are a very proud Englishman, fair to say.
Very proud.
And it's interesting, I remember at the beginning of your career, I would hear from English fans and they would say, we want to see the Anderson Silva. It's like, okay, we saw Bisping a few times. Now it feels different. Yeah. Now it feels like they're embracing you. Like, the bad guy Michael Bisping is completely gone. Would you agree with that?
Well, I would agree. I am not a bad guy, but people still try to portray me as that. People try to take my words out of context.
Not as much as before.
No, not as much as before.
You're not the bad boy anymore.
No, I'm certainly not a bad boy. No, I'm pushing 40, my friend.
What was the shift, though? When did it change? It definitely feels in the last couple of years, like I feel like in this fight, secretly deep down, a lot of the fans are pulling for you. They want to see you get that shot. They want to see this storybook ending, especially in your home turf. I feel like there's the community, if I can speak for all of them, is pulling for you, and I feel like that's been the case for the last couple fights. Why do you think that is? And when did that happen?
I'm not sure. I mean, certainly, I've certainly matured a little bit over the years, and I look back and I see things that I've said, and I cringe at times. I think, wow, did I really say that? Did I go there? It was 10 years ago I got in the UFC, and I was young, dumb, arrogant, surrounded by idiots, surrounded by people that were encouraging me to say stupid things and act a certain way. I'm surrounding myself with better people these days.
Okay.
And surrounding myself with people that are a good influence, not a negative influence. But yeah, I mean, I've always been a good person, and hopefully people are seeing that more.
You ever watch Tough 3, like the old?
You know what, I have. Just recently, Kendall Grove, obviously, who won the middleweight division. He stays at my house, and we don't sit there and pamper ourselves and watch the Ultimate Fighter 3, but on one occasion we did.
Really?
For a laugh. We said, let's take a look, and we couldn't believe how much we'd changed, how young we looked,
right? Things
like that.
By the way, how about that? That is do they still use phone booths here?
Phone booths? Yeah. Well,
is that really a thing?
I mean, yes. Hold on.
Does it still work? Because back home, as you know, they're kind of extinct.
Well, there's actually no phone in there.
There's no phone in there. How about that? Unbelievable.
But phones do work, generally.
You getting texts or something? Is someone bothering you?
I was going to call it for you.
You can actually call it?
You can call them, yeah. I was going to call it for you, but there's no phone in there, so that was pointless. The phone box with no phone in becomes a box.
But are there still...
Of course.
Really?
And the Wi-Fi hotspots as well.
Oh, interesting. So England is a lot more advanced than I thought.
We're getting there slowly.
Yes.
I mean, we still travel on these things.
On the Cutty Sark.
But, we'll get there one day.
Now, do you know anything about what this building is or this monument? Can you tell me anything about it?
I believe this is Henry VIII's Soul Palace.
Wow.
Which is now a naval college, I do believe. Something like that.
Who is Henry VIII again?
Henry VIII is the founder of the Protestant Church of England.
Wow.
From back in the day. He wanted to get a divorce. Of course, the Roman Catholic Church wouldn't let him. The Pope wouldn't let him, so he rebelled. He said, you know what, screw you. I'm getting a divorce. I'll make my own church. We'll call it the Church of England. I'll chop my wife's head off, and all is good. And that was one of his palaces back in the day.
You know, I gotta say, I finally come to realize that you're not just good looks. You actually have some braids out there.
I studied hard.
Yeah.
I studied hard before this walk. That's all I can say.
By the way, you mentioned Kendall Grove.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you about back home, because you had a bit of a transitional period as far as training and whatnot. Do you feel like you have a good team surrounding you? Like, do you feel, because I keep noticing you saying, never been in this kind of shape, but also mentally. You've
Yes.
said that a bunch of times.
For sure. Mentally, I'm in the best shape ever.
But you know fighters say that all the time.
Fighters say that all the time, of course.
Why should we believe you?
Okay, well, because and for a long time I used to think if I was the most emotional, the more angry, you know, all these negative emotions, if I could harness that, then I would fight better. And sometimes it worked out like that. Of course, sometimes you go out there and yeah, you can put it on your opponent and you can beat them in style and whatnot. But I think generally you've got to have a clear mind and you've got to be calm and composed and focused and in the moment to perform at the best of your ability. And for a very, very long time, and I owe this to Jason Perillo, and thank you to Jason for working so hard with me on this. And he's an amazing coach, and it's Jason that's really made this change in me. Obviously, you work very hard physically, and you want to have a maximum output. You want to be going as fast as you can, and you want to be redlining your physical output at all times. But that doesn't mean that your mind has to be, and that's what would happen. So we'd be hitting pads or sparring, whatever, and you know, my mind's in fifth gear as well as my body. You know, and you end up in a frantic state of mind as opposed to, you know, as I said, being calm and composed and in the moment. So what I'm trying to do now, and which I've made great success in, is in my sparring, in my pads, in everything I'm doing, having maximum physical output, but still remaining in neutral or second gear, if you will, mentally. So staying nice and calm, you know, and just breathing. And so I'm giving it everything I got, but in there, I'm still calm and cool.
Okay. So your emotions aren't getting the best of you?
No.
That's part of the maturation process.
Yeah, well, you could say that. Yeah, I guess. I mean, of course, I look at some of my old fights, and I used to go out there and just wipe guys out. Of course, early fights prior to the UFC when the competition was easier, and even in some of my earlier UFC fights. And sometimes I think, could I harness some of that? People say, we want to see the old Bisping. That's what we want to see. We want to see the old Bisping, you know. And yeah, so do I, you know. But you know, so sometimes I think. But I am older now, and I'm not as angry as I used to be, you know. But I'm smarter, I'm wiser, and you know, thanks to the hard work, it's all paying off.
How beautiful is this? Look at this. This is something.
Yeah, well, this is Canary Wharf over there.
Oh yeah, what is that? I've heard that name.
Well, that's the financial district over there.
Okay.
That's where all the rich people hang out.
Sure.
And
businessmen.
Stocks.
Suits. How
stocks
far?
And shares and footsies
The
and
real...
things like that. But my knowledge of such things is very limited. Don't ask me anything about that.
How far did you grow up from here?
So I grew up in a small town called Clitheroe, which is, I'm not sure, it's about a 4-hour drive north.
Okay, do you have a lot of friends and family attending on Saturday?
I do actually, unfortunately, because the event sold out so quickly.
Oh wow.
I'm going to hit up for tickets like crazy, and I haven't been able to accommodate them, and it's kind of disappointing, it really is. But yeah, I have got friends and family coming down. My mum will be there, my dad will be there. And
will your dad be in your corner?
My dad won't be in my corner. I'd like him to be. I really would.
Why won't he be? You need X amount of people, right? You're only allowed to have X amount.
You know, because my dad's coming down, you know, with people as well, and it's kind of hard. He has to abandon them.
Okay.
I would love my dad to be in my corner. My dad's been there since the very, very start of my martial arts career, and he used to drive me all over this country. On a Sunday and a Wednesday night, he would drive me all over the place to get training. And of course, I couldn't do my homework because, you know, I would get back at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And then I'd get up and go to school. I hadn't done my homework. And I'd tell the teachers the next day, I was in Nottingham last night training, which is, you know, 5-hour round trip car ride. And they're like, no way, nobody would...
5 hours?
That's quite a nice sight there. Yeah, 5-hour car ride just to get a jiu-jitsu session with this guy. And so anyway, long story short, he drove me all over the country. He supported my career. He's been at every single fight. He flies to every fight, regardless of where it is. You know, and he's not a rich man, you know, but he's always there, supports me, and he's always done everything he can. So thank you, Dad.
Why do you think he did that?
Well, my dad was always a big sports fan. Of course, he always wanted the best for us. He was a massive sports fan, and always wanted his children to excel in sport. And my brothers did well, my sisters did well and stuff, but of course my thing was always martial arts ever since I was a young kid. My older brother Conrad was a magnificent rugby player, my sister was a runner, you know, but I was into martial arts, and he just wanted to succeed. You know, my brother with his rugby and canoeing, he used to be a fantastic canoeer, kayaker, I believe you call it. And he used to drive him all over Europe, taking him to canoe races. He's a very, very supportive dad, you know. So, thank you.
It's a beautiful thing.
It is.
What is this? You said that this is. Wow! Look at this. This is beautiful.
It is beautiful, isn't it? It really is.
Nice little stray dog over there.
Yeah.
What are we looking at? Do you
This
know?
is Henry VIII's palace, I believe, as well. That was one of the outbuildings, I think.
Wow.
So yeah.
So he doesn't live here anymore.
Old Henry.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he's not about these days. Funnily enough.
I thought maybe he'd.
I'll send him a text and see if he's
Maybe
around.
he could come to the fight. You know.
He might come to the fight.
Guest timekeeper.
Somebody will be losing their head at the weekend.
That is true. That is true. Wow. This is amazing. And you've actually never been here before.
This is my first time in Greenwich.
What a
actually.
treat.
It is. Yeah. What a treat. I mean, it's kind of a cold day.
Yeah.
But
I feel like it's putting you in the right mental. I mean, you're coming home.
No, it's nice and calming actually. And of course, there is the O2 Arena in the background.
Wow. Look at that.
That's it. That's where we're going to be fighting.
Right. What a vision.
That was known as the Millennium Dome originally, and now it's the O2 Arena.
Last time you fought there, UFC 120.
UFC 120, Yoshihiro Akiyama.
You won?
I won. So this will be my 4th time fighting in that arena, I believe.
So I know you now call Orange County home, right?
Yes.
But correct me if I'm wrong, how about that? Deep down inside, you miss this place.
Oh my word, I miss this tremendously. Honestly, I can't put it into words. I love living in California. It's a great place. The people are fantastic. The weather is amazing. The opportunities are incredible. For me, you know, I'm really maximising my potential as a mixed martial artist living out there. You know, I mean, I work with you on Fox and things like that. I couldn't do those things out here in the UK. So I'm really maximising my potential. So it's a great place to be. But I'm an Englishman in Orange County. You know, I miss England. I miss the sense of humour. I miss everything. I miss the people.
Do you feel like you kind of...
Every time, like when I got off the plane, it feels, I swear to God, I'm not just saying this for the camera, when I get onto UK, I look down and it's so different, it's green,
right.
There's greenery everywhere, and it fills me with a sense of pride, and I get off the plane, I see UK border, and it fills my heart with joy and pride to be back, it really does.
Do you think you'll end up back here?
No.
No.
Unfortunately.
Does that hurt you?
It does. My wife doesn't like it. The problem is...
She doesn't like what?
She's Australian.
Okay.
She hates the weather and she has no ties to England whatsoever.
She wants to be there.
In Orange County.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm joking when I say that.
Okay.
So more important, the reason it's hard is because my wife, she moved around a lot as a child.
Okay.
Her dad was in the Air Force,
Okay.
Australian Air Force, and then they moved to England when she was 16. So she moved to England and she had no ties. So she had to grow up in a country,
right.
You know, at 16 years old, a pivotal age in her life, and she couldn't, you know, it was just hard on her.
Of course,
very hard.
yeah.
So we've done that once. We've moved from England to California. My son is 15 almost. My daughter's 12. We've been there for 5 years now. And I say I flirt with the idea of moving back. I flirt with the idea of maybe moving out of Orange County to somewhere different. And she is dead set against it. She said, we can't do that to the children. It's not fair.
Right.
It's not fair. They're settled in schools. They've managed to make new friends. They've assimilated to everything. We can't do that to them. And I agree. It would be unfair. I'm okay. I can get on a plane. I do this. I travel with work.
Right.
You know, I think it would be a little selfish.
Do you feel like you kind of betrayed your country by, like, do you have that?
No, I'm aware of that. I'm aware of that a little bit. But listen, the world's a big place, you know, and you know, you're presented with these opportunities. You got to get out there and see the world a little bit. I come back here as much as possible, you know. Home is where the heart is, my friend.
Well said.
And my heart is in England.
Who's that man?
That is Lord Nelson, Horatio Nelson. Lord Nelson, obviously we had a long history with the French back in the day, and there you go, Lord Nelson.
He fought on your behalf.
He fought on our behalf, won the Battle of Trafalgar.
Wow.
Trafalgar Square in central London is a beautiful place. You should go check it out.
Yeah.
And I think they carried his body back here, if I'm not mistaken.
Really? Wow. After he passed away.
Well, they wouldn't carry his body unless he was very, very lazy. Yeah, I'm assuming he was dead. Yeah.
Okay, so here we are. Our car is back.
Yeah, it's back.
Our cab.
Our cab awaits.
Michael Bisping branded cab. Let's go back in. This has been a blast. I'm not done with you yet, though. Please, future champions first. Look at that. You're even on the seats over there.
I know.
So as you know, Mike, there's been an explosion of European MMA, right? You know, the sport is a lot more popular here than when you first started.
Yes.
You're a pioneer, though. You recognize that.
I guess, yeah.
Are you comfortable with that?
You know, I mean, this is the thing that's always, you know, yeah, of course I'm comfortable with it, yeah, you know, but people use this expression, and I've heard it thrown around several times this week. You know, people said, oh, at the start of interviews, so you've been the poster boy of British MMA for a long time, and again, yeah, that's great, that's nice, that's cool, but I've never thought of myself of that. I really haven't. I've never thought I'm the guy. I'm at the spearhead of all of this. I've never ever once, hand on heart, thought like that. I've just always I'm just trying to do me, you know, just trying to look out for my family and trying to do as well as I can in my chosen sport or whatever I've decided to. Anything I do, I put my heart and soul into it and try and do the best I can. And the possibilities are endless with this. They really are. So I've tried my best, and along the way, if people want to say things like that, great, that's nice. That really is. Thank you very much. It's very kind. But I don't put too much
stock into
that at all. No, I don't.
So I was going to ask you.
No stock into that. It could all end in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
You know.
And it almost did, right?
I never get ahead of myself. Fighters, their careers are done and gone. You know, they're yesterday's news, and it's all over. So, you know, I've never let that change me as a person or who I am. I'm just an average guy from Clitheroe, a small working class town, and just trying to get by in life.
Are there any other famous people to come out of Clitheroe?
Jimmy Clitheroe, but he's not, you know, I wouldn't say he's famous, but Jimmy Clitheroe was a comedian that I think he was on the
his
TV
last name is the same as the...
Jimmy Clitheroe,
wow.
Yeah.
But like,
maybe that was his stage name.
Fair enough. If you
he has a cafe named after him in the town as well.
But are you a big deal there?
One day maybe I get a cafe.
That would be
What
huge.
the hell, guys?
Yes. Bigger than a belt, in my opinion.
Yeah.
What you know, if you go back there, is that a big deal?
No. See, that's the thing. I always liked that. You know, when I was going out to America a lot, and obviously the sport is much widely recognised in North America. And I come back to, even down here in London, you know, you got the hustle and bustle. You know, it's the big city, it's the nation's capital, and it's very different. But I go back home to Clitheroe, and I'm just Mick. I'm just Mick. You know, they don't call me Mike. I'm Mick.
Okay.
And, you know, just a guy from next door. You know, I talked to Norman, my next door neighbour. You know, he'd stand on the doorstep and we'd talk about the weather and whatever.
Yes.
Or, no one bothers me. No one wants a picture or an autograph.
Right.
You know, they're not gonna serve me like that. They're not gonna look at me and, you know, they'll make fun of me. If anything, they'll give me a hard time in a nice way.
Sure.
And I always enjoyed that. I always liked that.
How is the eye these days?
Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's good. No, none whatsoever.
But the career was close to being cut short, was it not?
Well, of course, anytime you get a detached retina, it's not good, you know. But
it feels like it looks better.
Yeah, no, it does.
It's not as dark.
Yeah, fortunately, you know, things are going well. So,
have you started to think about the end, like the life after and all that?
Of course, I'm aware of the life after. You know, I mean, I'd be a fool not to. You know. That's why I try and do the media stuff. That's why I'm trying to branch out in different directions. Primarily, first and foremost, I am a fighter, and that's what I'm focusing everything on, everything. But I'm trying to position myself now, whilst people still are willing to give me a chance, because you're a high-level UFC fighter.
Right.
That does open some doors, you know. As I said, when you're a washed-up fighter, when you're done, it's harder to open those doors. So I'm trying to position myself so the transition to ex-fighter is a lot easier.
What do you think you'll do when you're done? Do you want to be the media guy? You've had a good relationship with the UFC brass over the years. Do you think you'll be one of those ambassador types? Do you think you'll do something completely out of the sport? What do you think happens?
I don't know. I haven't had any conversations with the UFC like that, so I don't know. I mean, I enjoy, you know, the work that we do together. I love doing the analyst work. I've done a little bit of commentary for for Zuffa on Shuto. I really enjoyed that. I dabble, I play around with a little bit of acting here and there, which I enjoy, and I do acting classes. I'm trying that, but again, that's a hard business. There's nothing that you can really bank on and say, I'm going to do this. It's an occasional role here and there, you know, which doesn't pay the bills, but still, that's fun. I'm opening a gym with a UFC gym. Where's
that?
It's going to be in Orange County.
Okay.
And hopefully we're doing one here in the UK as well. So I'm working on that right now. In fact, that's going to be open pretty soon, 20,000 square feet. So I'll be working on that. Altogether, that sounds like I've got my hands full already.
Sure.
So we'll see.
Do you ever have these moments where you wake up and you're like, because a professional athlete, and in particular a pro fighter, in your mid-30s, that's when people start asking you about the end.
No
other
sure.
walk. It's such a bizarre thing, and unlike other sports, there's no real retirement plan, right?
There is no retirement plan, and that's what scares me.
Yeah, so I'm wondering.
It scared me my whole career, and that's what scares everybody, all fighters. It's great. We're on top of the world 1 minute, the next minute. You look at the majority of fighters, ex-fighters, they're all broke.
Yeah.
They're all broke, and that's why you see, I kind of scoff a little bit when I see them out there and they're spending money like crazy. Not all fighters, some guys, Conor McGregor can afford to do that. He's raking in the big bucks. But other fighters that aren't generating that type of money, they need to be, a little cleverer, a bit more smart with their money. And that keeps me up at night. I don't want to go back to the life I used to have. I don't want to go back to, borrowing money off my mum. And my mum's got no money, believe you me. That scares me. That's what keeps me motivated, keeps me hungry. And listen, I could retire now. I've done very well, and I've been smart. I've put money away and things like that. But still, it's a worry. Of course, I'm 36. I'm not 66.
Yeah.
I'm 36.
Amazing.
I'm 36. I've still got another 30 years in the workplace, hopefully. So, we'll see.
It's a lot of fun watching you interact with your kids on Embedded and whatnot, because you have the teenage boy, the teenage girl, then you have the youngster who you're playing around with, who's saying that Anderson's going to beat you. What is up with that?
Yeah, because he's just a little monkey, He knows.
He knows it bothers you?
No, it doesn't bother me. I say it on purpose because I know he's going to say it on camera.
Okay.
So I say it because it's funny, it's cute. You know what I mean?
Of course.
That's him all over. That's Lucas. He's a little monkey, to say the least. He actually deserves to be called something a little stronger. But he's cute as hell, but he's a monster. The first two take after the mother.
Okay.
Calm, relaxed. Him, I'm getting paid back for all my sins. He is me, 2.0.
Will they all be here?
No, they will not, unfortunately.
How come?
School. They're all in
Wow.
school, yeah. So Callum, I'm sorry, buddy. He's devastated.
He's the biggest MMA fan in the world, right?
The biggest MMA fan in the world. I swear to God. You can say any fight card, or you'll say a main event, he'll tell you where it was.
Wow.
Who else fought on the card, how they won, things like that. He's crazy. He's obsessed with MMA.
He couldn't take a couple of days off to come here? Did he try to convince you?
He tried to convince me massively.
And?
No, he can't do it. He's in school. It's important.
This is once in a lifetime stuff.
No, I know, and now you're making me feel bad.
I'm sorry. There's still a couple of days.
No, I'm sorry, Callum.
Okay.
Do you know, I toyed with the idea. I toyed with the idea of maybe flying him out, but I didn't want to say anything in case it didn't happen.
Okay.
No, it was great last time. It was so great.
They were in Scotland, right?
Yeah, they were all in Scotland. It was amazing having my family there, And I know you asked me, you said, is it a distraction? You were a little concerned. It's like, no, it's not a distraction. This is why I'm doing it. Having them around me empowers me and reminds me why I'm doing it,
Wasn't your son in your corner?
Callum was in my corner, yeah, that's right.
What was that like?
It was amazing.
I can't imagine.
The poor kid, he wasn't sure if he wanted to do it or not.
Okay.
Because
First time
he did it, and not the last. He gets very emotional when I fight, of course, it's not easy, and of course it's a tough sport. It doesn't always go your way. And he wasn't sure how, you don't know what's going to happen in these fights, and he wasn't sure whether or not he could be there, that close to the action, and if God forbid something went wrong. But anyway, in the end, I said, look, come on, son, you'll never forget this.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget it. So for me, it was beautiful.
Was that one of the highlights of your career?
Oh, absolutely, every time. Yeah, of course, Callum seems to be the one, but every time I look back, I see photos. When I fought in Manchester, he was in there and he did an armbar on me and did a flying knee.
How old was he there?
I'm not sure. When was that? So 2007, I believe. So 6, 7, 9 years ago. What is he now?
12, 11?
He's
probably less
14
than that.
now, so he was at 5.
Wow.
He's 5 years old.
Wow.
He's 5 years old. He's 15 now, so yeah. Well, he's 14 almost. 15.
Sure. And now he's becoming a wrestler. I see the clips on that. Do you think he becomes a fighter?
My word. See, the thing is, he's a very, very clever kid. He really is, and straight A student in school. He's the best kid you could ever wish for. He really is. He's never had to discipline him once. Never ever had to tell him off. Never had to send him to his room or anything stupid like that. He's respectful to everybody. Doesn't use foul language. He's incredible. He really is. He's a credit to us all. Certainly a credit to me, because God knows he could have gone wrong with me as a father. He's incredible. He's doing very, very well at jiu-jitsu. He started American football this year. He did well on that. He got the MVP.
Wow.
And things like that. He did incredible. And then he did his first season of wrestling, and he loves that. He absolutely loves it. So in the tournaments, I'm sure you guys know, he's a freshman. They compete against sophomores as well. And his coach was telling me, don't expect him to place, because freshmen typically don't place in the tournaments. He got a bronze, a silver, and a gold medal. So he placed every time, and
wow,
he's doing fantastic. Will he fight? He wants to.
He does.
He wants to, but he has a really good brain on his shoulders. So he's gonna, go the full academic route all the way to the end. But listen, if he wants to try it out, he's not going to be a professional fighter. But yeah, he can have a couple of fights here and there, and I'll train him.
Why won't he be a professional fighter?
I don't want that life for him.
You don't want that, okay.
I don't want that life for him.
What if he says, this is what I want? He's a huge fan.
Well, then I'll support him.
Okay.
And who knows, maybe he will. But he's good at grappling. He can wrestle. He can do jiu-jitsu. Now I'm going to, we do pads, but if he wants to fight, then I'm going to start training properly. And he can have a few fights, but I don't want that from him.
So what's going on back home as you're fighting? It will be sort of late morning, early afternoon, back in Orange County. Is there a big part? How will your kids? I can't imagine. And now as I become a father and I have young kids, I can't imagine the thought of a son, a daughter watching their father compete in this sport.
Yeah, that's right.
What is going on? How are they watching
in my house, so my in-laws will be there. Kate and Graham, they'll be there. They're watching the kids, and
your wife is here.
My wife will be here.
Okay.
And then, they'll just be gathered around the TV.
Are they freaking out, do you think?
My daughter's very relaxed. She's very calm. She doesn't get excited about anything. She's a typical teenage girl. She's 13. She doesn't get excited about much. So, Are
you thinking about them in the locker room? Like, what are you thinking about as you're walking?
That's all I think about. Well, in the locker room, I think about how far this journey's taken me, everything I've been through, all the sacrifices. I think about all the obstacles. So I quit work to become a professional fighter. My first ever fight was in a tiny little sports hall in the middle of nowhere. Okay, back then I'm thinking, I have to win this fight. I have to win this fight because I've quit work when we're already in debt, when we already couldn't pay the mortgage. If I can't win this first fight in a poxy sports hall in the middle of nowhere, I've made the wrong choice. Unfortunately I won that fight. A couple of fights later, I was fighting for the Cage Rage Championship, and I'm thinking, well, I need to win this fight because this is the start of something, and I won that. Then I was at the auditions for the Ultimate Fighter. I got on the Ultimate Fighter, and it was the final of the Ultimate Fighter. I'm like, well, I've got to win this. I want to get in the UFC, etc. I won that. Then it's your first main event. Things like, so the goalpost is always moving, and so I think about all of those things, and I think about my family, I think about my children, I think about the life I've been able to give them. I think about all these things. I think about when I was a kid, what I wanted, and here I am. I think about all these beautiful things that this has allowed me to have. I think about my training. I think about all the victories I've had. I think about all the adversity I've been through in my life, and I'm here at this moment, and I know I can go out there and beat this guy.
It's funny you say that. Okay, you wanted to win that first one, you wanted to win the Cage Rage, you wanted to win the Tough. You won all those fights, all like the big ones, except for the big one now, right? Except for the number one contender fight.
Exactly.
That's the only one you haven't won.
Yeah, sure.
And now here we are again.
No, I know. It's poetic in some ways, but
you couldn't write a better script, right?
No, I know.
This is movie stuff in London, right? Anderson Silva.
It is.
It's unbelievable.
For me, this is perfect. I'm in London. It's a culmination of a lot of work. There's a lot of ups and downs. A lot of things have happened. A lot of history has been written. And is this what's going to happen? Am I going to come to London and yet again be defeated for the first time in front of my home nation? But am I going to be robbed through my own doing of the biggest opportunity of my life? I don't think so. I don't think it is. I think it's my destiny to come here at the O2 Arena, fighting Anderson Silva. All these things have come together. I think it's the perfect storm for me, and I believe this is my time. And as I say, I do believe it's destiny. When I was a kid, I knew this was my destiny. I've always been a fighter, and I always knew this day would come.
What do you think it's going to be like when they raise your hand, when Bruce Buffer says your name at the end? What do you think that feeling will be like? Do you dream of that? Do you think about that?
I never thought about it until you just said. I don't think of that. You know, I don't know. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be incredible. It's going to be another win. It's going to be another win. You know.
Will it be another win? Kind of bigger than another win, right? I mean,
no, it'll be another win.
Really?
It'll be another win, and it'll be on to the next one. I'll get a few weeks to myself, and then hopefully soon, then I get an email saying we want you to fight here, and I'll be on to the next one, and on to the next mission, and on to the next. Just trying to save money for my children. That's all it is. I get paid well. I don't buy myself anything.
Sure.
You know, I'm not a material man. Everything goes away for the kids. You know, and. Maybe I should treat myself now and again. Might be less of a pain. But yeah, that's all it'll be. It'll just be on to the next one.
So you don't envision that, but what about the fight? Does something keep coming, to mind? You see the fight unfolding a certain way? You've been thinking about Anderson. Okay, so can you tell me?
I see a ground and pound victory, a ground and pound stoppage.
Really?
Yeah.
Early, late?
Round two.
Round two.
I'm going to put it on him from the start. He's never fought anybody with my footwork, with my confidence, with my movement, with my variety of strikes, with my wrestling. I can put it all together, and I'm stronger, I'm faster. Listen, all that aside, cut all that bullshit. I want it more than Anderson. It's as simple as that. I want it more, and you can't put it any simpler than that. Everywhere he goes, he has a huge entourage. The open workouts, he's got 20 people with him. I'm there, me and my boxing coach, and you might say that's because he's a big star or whatever. I want this more. Friday nights, I'm there by myself, pitch black, out running the pavements, screaming because I'm pushing my body so hard, pushing it to the limit. If I'm running past people or anyone that had the window down in the cars, they think this guy's crazy. On my own, nobody, by myself. I guarantee he's not doing that. He doesn't want this like I want it. Fact. And I'm going to win this fight.
What a pleasure. Thank you so much, Michael.
My pleasure.
Really appreciate you doing this. Thank you for having us. Good luck on Saturday.
Thank you, sir.